It's no secret that the first-person shooter genre is extremely popular. Some of the biggest franchises in all of video games are FPS, like Call of Duty or Halo or Doom. There are so many good first-person shooters, but hey, maybe we're just too opinionated and we think that today is your lucky day because we picked out a bunch of first-person shooter games that a lot of people aren't talking about enough. We want to highlight them and talk about them because we think they are absolutely worth your hard-earned money. So in this video today, we're going to talk about 15 FPS games that are criminally underrated. Let's get started off with number 15.
Sweet Jesus, dealing with Karen sure is exhausting. Guy just wants a TV, and before I know it, I'm in the middle of a Black Friday shopping spree stampede.
We had to start off with what is probably the weirdest game on this list, and that's Postal Brain Damaged. See, it is a part of the Postal franchise, but I know what you're thinking when I say that. But it does get weirder. So it's got the same crass, over-the-top, self-aware humor with all the references in the pop culture, but it's taking the framework of a Postal game, which normally are third-person shooter games, and you're a dude on the street doing crazy things. This is actually instead a hardcore boomer shooter style game, a run and gun first person shooter game, and a damn good one at that. With crazy kooky humor, over the top visuals at every turn, tons of references, crazy pickup lines that you can score with your own original characters. And yes, all that stuff I just said was direct game dialogue. Brain Damaged is just a blast. Even if you find the Postal humor to be a repeat of a copy of a copy of a copy at this point, the game makes up for it with its creative level designs, crazy enemy encounters, weapons, all the fun, blood and gore and violence and exploding stuff. And it's just a different take on the Postal formula that we're glad exists. It's fun as hell to play, and honestly, when it comes to the Postal series, it really is the dumbest possible timeline you could imagine. But it's a lot of fun, and we absolutely recommend it.
Excuse me, sir.
Next, over at number 14, we have something a little bit different, Fashion Police Squad. This might sound like a joke, and honestly, it kind of is. It's very funny, but it's also a really good and really creative first-person shooter. And I mean that, really creative. So it's a game where the enemies on screen are unsightly, are distasteful, are unfashionable people. You got dudes wearing socks with sandals, you have people just wearing hideous outfits and just looking really bad. And you, as the fashion police, need to quite literally beat these guys up, kill them with kindness, if you will, but you're doing it with first-person shooter weapons. The main weapon is a little thing that shoots needles and thread, and there are tons and tons of other weapons in this game. But instead of just mercilessly murdering a bunch of people, you're actually helping them by destroying their bad shorts or blowing up their socks or completely enveloping and entombing them in a very fashionable outfit. It's really creative and really fun to play through. We've really never seen anything like this before. I'd say in the first-person shooter space, most of the time, the most creativity we get in terms of weapons is maybe seeing like a crazy dumb gun or a weird wacky gun that shoots blind stuff. But you never really think about creatively having guns that do good, like guns that kill with kindness, like I said, that help people. It's very creative, very fun, and you can tell the developers really had their hearts in it because, well, the rest of the game is good, most importantly. Next, over at number 13, we have the Star Wars Dark Forces remaster. Star Wars Dark Forces, if you don't know, is a 1995 first-person shooter game set in the Star Wars universe. You are Kyle Katarn, a mercenary for hire. You get tangled up with stuff that happens to be related to the Galactic Empire. What I love about this game is because it came out so long ago and was written so long ago and focuses on a completely different character and all their supporting characters. There's none of that Disney Star Wars baggage. This is just an old school, no holds barred Star Wars thing, and it's very fun for that. But also the first-person gameplay is great. It's got a great original Star Wars-y atmospheric soundtrack, great original Star Wars sound effects, like the pew-pew of a blaster, the hum of a lightsaber. There's tons of different weapons you can find throughout the game, interesting, fun enemies, locations, and of course, all of it revolves in like a first-person shooter game where you're running around and shooting stuff. It's really unique. It's actually very cool. And the remaster did a really great job of preserving that, but also improving upon some things like raising up the frame rate, tidying up the visuals, and giving the game some modern luxuries, like being a little bit clearer about mission objectives. Because in a lot of classic boomer shooter style games, you had to figure out what the hell you were doing. It's not all perfect. It's definitely showing its age. But if you are a Star Wars diehard, a Star Wars nerd, you really should check this one out. Even if you're maybe a Battlefield player and you really love mowing down stormtroopers or rebel soldiers, I think you should give this one a shot. Literally, you're going to be doing a lot of shooting. Next, over at number 12, we've got Angerfoot. Do you like Hotline Miami, but do you wish your main character could have a bunch of different weapons, but on top of that, your main character was also like a bloodthirsty Bruce Lee, or like John Wick, where he was incredible at shooting things, but also at kicking ass with his feet? Well, then you should definitely play Angerfoot, because it's an FPS game where you shoot a lot of things, but you also do a roundhouse kick just as much. It's awesome. There's like a kinetic energy and flow and speed and momentum to this game that is unlike many other FPS. It's a really great gameplay loop. You'll be blowing up a room full of guys, but then immediately running over to someone and kicking the crap out of them. It's really just awesome. And also, the setting here is over the top and really extreme. You got physically exaggerated thug, criminal creatures to beat up every step of the way. It's just a very unique and creative and fun little game. We've seen bits and pieces of what this game does in other games. Like, of course, we have FPS games where you kick guys, but we've never seen it all flow this good in like a singular, straightforward package. This is like a really high record mint. Everybody should try this game who likes FPS games. It's like a 100% yes. Next, over at number 11, we have Severed Steel. Severed Steel was a game that quietly launched a couple of years ago, and it was really worth your time. It's more of like an arcade-style FPS game where, you're shooting guys, shooting things, picking up weapons off of them, blowing up buildings, keep moving forward, essentially. It's a little bit more arcadey and a little bit more focused towards a pure gameplay experience. It's not exactly a massive game. It doesn't have this sweeping story or crazy environments. You're mostly killing guys in warehouses, right? But it's the way you kill guys. You have crazy powers of movement. You could do full flips, you could slide, you could jump, you could spin 360 degrees. It's very much something that people call like a bullet time simulator. It's like the fighting equivalent of a Max Payne bullet dodge. Like, you could just do this completely out of this world flip and then seamlessly transition into shooting a bunch of guys that look and feel really cool. Severed Steel is underrated for a bunch of reasons, and especially just because of things like this.
Ah, a familiar face. The legendary Serious Sam.
The equally legendary One-Eyed Olga. Hey, I thought you were dead.
Next, over at number 10, we have Serious Sam Siberian Mayhem. Serious Sam was thought to be pretty long dead, right? It seemed like the developers didn't really know what to do with him, where to go, or anything, But thankfully, they kind of went back to basics with a more straightforward spin-off adventure where you're in a Siberian environment and you have to shoot a bunch of monsters. The gameplay here, nothing new. It's just you, Serious Sam, stopping in one open area and fighting a ton of enemies using a bunch of different weapons. The movements are fast, the action is good, the violence is over the top. It's classic Serious Sam stuff, but with some newer enemy types, some interesting new environments, going really deep into Siberian Russian stuff with some urban environments, all the snow, then kind of mixing that with some of the classic Serious Sam sci-fi elements and creepy monster displays. If you like games where you shoot things, run up and pick up health armor and ammo drops and keep moving forward, this is definitely a worthy one. Underrated because, honestly, everybody really just thought Serious Sam was dead. So I think people had kind of written it off, but it's surprisingly solid. Next, over at number 9, we have a good one. It's Super Hot. The best way to describe Super Hot, and this is an old school way to describe it, but what if you could play through a game where it kind of feels like you're Neo in that scene in The Matrix, the bank lobby scene. That, but in like an arcade setting. So you're running and gunning and fighting people, but most importantly, your power is that you're essentially shooting guys, running up and grabbing things and throwing it at dudes, grabbing their guns and shooting them. But time only moves when you move. So you can only run up to a guy to punch him if he's shooting at you. You know, you could dodge bullets, but it kind of also all happens at the same time. You're constantly ducking and weaving. It's like if Super Hot is the best possible interpretation of this, but it's not the only possible interpretation. It's that idea that only the game's in motion when you're in motion. It's a game that's very simple when you step back and look at it, but brilliant in execution and just so endlessly fun. Super Hot's a great game concept. It's not necessarily like the craziest full package in the world. Like I said, it's kind of very much like an arcade game, but still, if you're an FPS junkie, you should have played this one already. If not, it's not too late. Next, over at number 8, we have Mother Gunship. We love weird games that do things we've never seen before, or at least do them really well if they do them like another game we've seen before. Mother Gunship is cool because it's essentially a roguelite where every time you play through it, the levels are different, the scenarios are different, which is a whole other thing with a different reason, but that's not why we're talking about this game, because it's a first-person shooter game where you make your own guns. Guns are modular, so you build your own crazy, creative things. Imagine a bunch of barrels slammed together that shoots out rockets, or you want to use a flamethrower, or you want to make a new flare. It's interesting because it's kind of like a workbench thing where you got to go in and figure it out, but in first person, and that really matters because this is a first-person shooter game. So you're really going to want to feel connection with your weapons. You're going to want to know the in and outs, the details. You want them to feel comfortable. So I feel like the fact that you're assembling your own gun adds another layer of connection here. It's a smaller type of game, but it is one that does something unique, and it just really earns points with us for that alone. Now over at number 7, we have Mullet Majak. This is another super chaotic game, and I mean that in the literal sense. Yes, it is absolutely chaotic, but it's also chaos in the sense that it pulls a lot of references and ideas from other games and mashes it all together extremely well. There's a little bit of Angerfoot in here, a little bit of Hotline Miami. It's got some ideas from old school games like build engine games and stuff, but then it has this completely different, brand new, totally unique visual aesthetic of blending a video game with an old anime. You get the characters on the screen, you get a couple of extra frames of animation, all kinds of old school anime stylings, and then crazy fever dream levels. This is a game where you're essentially mowing through hordes and hordes of enemies as you're running quickly, pulling off unique kills, and trying to get as many points as possible in a world where essentially you gain extra time on your life by killing things, but then you spend that time. It's interesting. It's unique, and it's a very flashy game as you're running and gunning and attacking all these weird enemies in a completely chaotic world. It's frantic, it's weird, it's over the top, it's absolutely not for everybody. It can be a little eye-melting at times, really, but it's a really fun game for weirdos like us.
Bounty hunter, let's light their ass up.
Next, over at number 6, we have High on Life from Squanch Games. They've made these weird first-person shooter games over the years that have all kind of taken different forms, but High on Life, their latest one, is the most straightforward. It's a first-person shooter game. Yes, it's a weird one, but it is a first-person shooter game where you kill a bunch of aliens, explore these different worlds, and seemingly blow holes and shoot through all the environments, but you get unique interactivity with actually your guns. Your guns talk to you. They're essentially characters that keep you going and propel the story forward. It's an interesting idea and concept on top of the fact that your guy isn't just a straight up guy who just shoots things. You have different gadgets. Sometimes, you have bladed weapons that you can use to zip around the environment. There are a lot of reasons why we put this on this list. It's unique in many ways, and it's pretty dang fun. It surprisingly lives above the source material, which is apparently, obviously it's like very inspired by Rick and Morty, but thankfully it's not just pounding you over the head with it. It's just a fun, weird, lot of blood, full explosions, Gatling gun guy running around and killing a lot of things. That's it, man. That's why it's on this list. Next, over at number 5, we have Immortals of Avium. Immortals of Avium is just a really solid first-person shooter game that a lot of people kind of brushed aside or didn't even know existed. One, it looked like, I think people scoff at the concept, scoff at the world, the character designs, This was actually a big budget game from a studio that unfortunately flunked it out, but you know, they had some pretty experienced ex-Call of Duty people behind it, and you can tell. Not in the sense where this is a copy of Call of Duty or anything, it's unique. It's hyper unique in that this is a first-person shooter where you don't have a gun. You kind of are a wizard. So imagine the shooting and the destruction of a Call of Duty campaign. Imagine the over-the-top set pieces, the multiple gun types, the picking up grenades, the blowing things up, but done in a fantasy world and also with the usage of wizard hands, like you're shooting spells, almost like a Bioshock power or something. Gameplay-wise, it's very, very distinct. You start to really settle in with it, and the fact that it is like a big-budget, over-the-top campaign shooter just makes it absolutely worth your while.
It's not perfect, you know, some of the world building, some of the voice acting is a little rough, but it's very, very satisfying, and there are a lot of really cool FPS moments here that are hard to ignore.
Sloan, my blood is red, white, and blue.
Next, at number 4, we have Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. Why? I think Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon doesn't get enough credit. I think it's not underrated in the sense that people don't think it's good. I think people know it's good, but I think a lot of people forget about it as a first-person shooter or a shooter game in general because it's technically a Far Cry game and an open world game. But it's really, really good at all costs. Just bear in mind, this isn't Far Cry 3 copy and paste content with new stuff. This is essentially almost its own entire game. It is its own unique world, aesthetic, soundtrack, enemy, story, characters, all of it, just using that Far Cry 3 framework. So it's a massive map, but it's nowhere near as big as a Far Cry map. There are a lot of reasons to shoot a lot of things. There are a lot of objectives. There are a lot of missions to do, mostly revolving around explosions, blowing things up, base takeovers, all the things that Far Cry does well. And it's surrounded by an absolutely incredible retro sci-fi world of essentially like a 1980s Schwarzenegger movie turned into a first-person shooter game. That may not be necessarily a sell for a lot of people, but like I said, either way, it's a solid game. So just by it being a Far Cry game, people tend to lump it in with those experiences, but not necessarily for how great it is for just an old school FPS style shooting game experience. Now down at number 3, when it comes to chaos and insane gameplay, we had to mention this. Forgive Me Father is an FPS where the visuals and gameplay really, really matter. This is one where you kind of have to look past like the title or the vague premise. This is just a solid shooter. Between like the over-the-top weapons, the environments with all kinds of monsters to kill, and like the bumps in the night, and all the threats and weirdness around every corner, this is an incredibly tight shooting package.
It doesn't necessarily have an insane narrative to keep you going. It's pretty bare bones, and it's just an excuse to shoot things, but it is a damn good one of those. With like super flashy, very crazy, over-the-top weapons, some insane enemy design, it's like a gothic horror world that, compared to some other FPS games, has a lot more really detailed environmental design, and that's a big deal here. Like, you know, you're in these flashy environments and flashy settings and interesting monsters to go along with it. If you even get just a teeny tiny adrenaline rush from killing things in a first-person shooter game, playing this will essentially give you like a full adrenaline dump. Like, it's really good at just capturing that energy.
Next, at number 2, we have the perfectly titled I Am Your Beast. I Am Your Beast is like pure adrenaline with no BS for better or worse. It's essentially missions, so it's isolated levels, mission maps, whatever you want to call it, map design, first-person shooting. It's very detailed, very tightly designed, maps, missions, whatever, and it's all centered around you just being on a killing spree. Very simple objectives. There is a story in between if you want to follow it, which is kind of like, imagine like a John Wick, former assassin, badass, who is just capable of destroying everything, fighting against the government or something like that. It's very simple, but at the end of the day, you're just dropped into a scenario and you start with nothing usually except your fists and stuff you can pick up off the ground, and you have to kind of find your weapons throughout, which can be as simple as a knife, but then eventually you'll be finding guns and stuff. It's got a very comic book visual aesthetic. It's a little bit more abstract, kind of reminiscent of old FPS games, like the 13th game maybe, but mixed with, some more gnarly realism or contemporary comic book realism. You kind of get what I mean, right? It's over the top, it's unique, and it looks pretty different. And it's very hardcore. It's a solid gameplay experience if you like run and gun, high stress, high tension stuff. Now, finally, at number 1, we have Vampire Hunters. This is extremely different compared to everything else on this list. Yes, it's a first-person shooter game, but it's also kind of a roguelike horde shooter, and we've seen things like this before, right? Like, how many Vampire Survivor clones have we seen, right? With that top-down third person where you're running around with a little guy, you're essentially kind of auto-shooting, picking up new weapons and gear and power-ups as you're killing monsters that are chasing after you. This is the same thing, but in first person, which completely changes the gameplay because you gotta be way more paying attention. When your guy is tiny in a little thing, you see all the monsters running up behind you on the screen. Here, you're in first person. You always have to be looking behind you, not to mention this is more fast-paced. This is a first-person shooter game. It's not some real-time strategy type thing. So you'll be mowing down hordes of monsters, picking up new weapons as you go in a first-person sense. And it all comes together in a really unique, creative package that captures that same addictive, adrenaline-pumping loop you get from something like Vampire Survivors. And then sometimes on more downtime, when you have a little bit of easier time, it kind of feels a little bit chill when you're kind of swooshing through a little library-type looking setting with a bunch of bats chasing after you. Vampire Hunters is a unique, chill little game. It's not the most exciting thing ever. Its visuals aren't necessarily super unique or inspired, but the gameplay loop is why we had to put it on this list. But those are 15 FPS games that we thought were pretty underrated, games you may have missed. Let us know what other games deserve to be on this list. If you like anything on this list, like them, because frankly, we like making these videos for you guys. So if you click on the like button, it helps us, and that's all we need. We thank you, but that's it for us. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.